Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. Ukraine War News Update, second part there for the 20th of March 2024. Let's get to our military aided equipment section. I'll keep this as a separate video and then I've got a off-ski before coming back to my geopolitics video. But members of the Republican Party, I wasn't going to start with this, but there's a big bit of news that's just come out, which is not good news again. Members of the Republican Party in the US Congress seriously began to consider the option of arranging part of the aid to Ukraine in the form of a loan. So we've heard a lot about this is now being more formally put together, Politico reporting on Republicans seriously trying to do that in order to get around this impasse in Congress. Okay, if we say it's a loan and not just a grant and giving stuff to Ukraine, then maybe people would be more up for that. Well, this is the latest. He's going to postpone it for many more months if nothing is done. Very clear. Now he's determined to do everything he can to delay this vital aid. So Maria Drutska here reporting that the US will not consider assistance to Ukraine for now, according to The Hill. It's reported that House Speaker Mike Johnson has refused to consider aid to Ukraine until the overall US budget is passed. This could take at least another 3 weeks. I freaking dislike that man. Try not to rant unnecessarily. He is a piece of work. I know he's compromised, but where's his moral decency? People are dying. And indeed, you know, a report's come out to suggest there's a Darren Masiko here, who's excellent, well worth following, from the Carnegie Endowment Institute, saying delays in US lethal aid have already negatively impacted the battlefield in Ukraine. These graphics outline signposts of degrading combat conditions where things stand now and what may come next. These will be updated as conditions change. These graphics are designed to inform the debate on how the battlefield could degrade if current challenges are not addressed soon, which are not going to be. Thank you very much, Mike Johnson. They are not traditional warning products, but can be used to inform that process. In the accompanying video below, I explain how ongoing ammunition and manpower shortages and persistent Russian attacks are creating compounding pressures on the Ukrainian front line and what to expect if resources are not made available. These signposts are not foregone conclusions. Conditions can stabilise and improve from the near-term approval and dissemination of critical ammunition from the West and additional manpower. Separate threads on the ground and air campaigns will follow. So if we look at this just really quickly, delays in the US supplemental package happened back in October. We've had 6 months coming on 5 to 6 months of no significant aid from the US. That caused localized ammunition rationing, widespread ammunition rationing, localized reduction of counter-battery fires, localized challenge to suppress Russian maneuvers, localized inability to defend positions, and then subsequent withdrawal. Possible future signposts: localized ammunition depletion, accelerated Russian gains in multiple sectors, widespread ammunition depletion, widespread reduction in counter-battery fires, widespread challenge to suppress Russian maneuvers, widespread inability to defend positions, units withdrawal or collapse, breakthrough of Russian forces. So that has immediately been stopped, I think, by the European supply of ammunition, and we'll go on to talk about that in a second. And this would have been put together over the last few weeks, and the whole report that would be from Carnegie. So in those few weeks, the Czech initiative has really achieved quite a lot. Anyway, in terms of the degradation of the air campaign, or degrading combat conditions in Ukraine concerning the air campaign, delays in the US supplemental package for Ukraine, leading to strategic and tactical air defense rationing. And this is actually still the problem. This is a bigger problem at the moment. So this hasn't been solved, whereas the artillery ammunition has been somewhat improved, right? Strategic and tactical air defense rationing, interception rates decline against Russian missiles, Russian airstrikes increase on frontline positions, and then the future signpost could be that frontline tactical air defense systems are degraded, frontline tactical air defense combat is rendered ineffective, Russian tactical aviation freedom of movement, this is partly taking place at the moment. Air defense around major cities are depleted or combat ineffective. Majority of Russian missiles or Shahed drones hit their targets. Heavy bombers operate over Ukrainian territory at medium or high altitudes, and Russian heavy bombers used against military sites or population centers. Now put this together with what Ukraine did last night, which was to hit Engels Air Base, where they operate these bombers. So if you don't have the air defenses to shoot down the missiles, you need to take out the air bases and the bombers that are doing that. And I think that could be a switch from, you might see a switch from oil, targeting oil fields and oil refineries to targeting air bases, in light of the fact that they are struggling to get air defense munitions from particularly the US. This is a real worry. I mean, Mike Johnson, Anyway, moving to artillery ammunition. It looks like around 450,000 artillery shells have been financed so far. What he means here, Jakub Janovsky, is, I presume, is the money has actually got to Czechia, for example, and that's it. Those are paid for, not just pledged. There's been a lot of pledging, but 450,000 has been paid for up front. Everyone, including Czechia, needs to dig deeper into the wallet if they are to buy all 1.5 million rounds that are available. Well, okay, more good news. Czech Republic announced that another 700,000 artillery shells have been secured for Ukraine. This comes on top of 800,000 shells that have been organised before. So what does secured mean? This has been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal. Czech President Petr Pavel literally delivers. The deliveries have not yet arrived on the battlefields, but with the prospect of them being available fairly soon, Ukrainian forces can increase their fire rate and tap into their reserves. So the question is, how many have been paid for? What does secured mean? Is it like, right, can you ring fence those munitions so you're not giving them to anyone else? We will buy them. We just need to find the money for them. So we've bought those. We'll have those. Thank you very much. We've pledged money for those. So they will be bought. So you definitely can't do anything with them because we've effectively bought them. We just need to get the money through to the bank account. And those ones don't sell. We're looking at buying them. So that's how I understand the situation. Because things are happening on a continued basis. Finland is providing another 30 million euros for the purchase of artillery shells as part of the Czech initiative. Luxembourg is joining the artillery coalition led by France and Germany and will purchase drones for Ukrainian cooperation with Belgium and the Netherlands. I don't know if that means they're adding to the Czech initiative at all. Canada will allocate more than 40 million Canadian dollars for the purchase of artillery shells for Ukraine. Actually, that includes 30 million for the Czech-led initiative, and then I presume 10 million for night vision equipment as well. So advanced night vision equipment, according to the Canadian Defence Minister, and that's come out the 20th contact group meeting at Ramstein. Germany will cover the cost of 180,000 ammunition rounds within the framework of the Czech initiative to purchase shells for Ukraine outside the EU, according to the Defence Minister Pistorius. And this can also be supplemented by Germany and now Poland forming a new tank coalition on top of all that stuff that they gave yesterday. All the shells, here they are. So this is nothing to do with France. Says French aid to Ukraine, but I have something to say about it. So this is giving some detail about the German pledges yesterday. So 10,000 155mm shells from their Bundeswehr stocks, 180,000 from the Czech initiative, and then 100,000 extra ones ordered as a new order from Germany, from one presumes their own munitions companies and whatnot. So that's really significant artillery ammunition that is finding its way to Ukraine, which means that going back to what Darren Masiko was saying, the ground campaign will be affected quite positively by that. The challenge is now the air campaign and what's going on with those resources that are needed. Right. So where were we? Flicking backwards and forwards. Right, this is brilliant. Kosovo. So Kosovo, a tiny nation that's not even recognised by some of its neighbours. Kosovo has announced a package of military assistance to Ukraine. Quote, Kosovo will continue to support Ukraine in its heroic war against Russian aggression. Today, at the UDCG meeting, I announced our second military aid package for Ukraine, which consists of mortar shells. The first package of trucks, tactical and armoured vehicles will be delivered next week. So they've already promised previously trucks, tactical and armoured vehicles. That's going to get there. Now they're giving some mortar shells as well. Belgium will deploy 50 military personnel and 2 F-16 jets to Denmark in an 8-week intensive training program for Ukrainian pilots. I did report this, but I might have said 50 pilots, but it's 50 Belgian military personnel to help with that training, to help the training of technicians, mission planners, and Ukrainian pilots. Finland is up armouring Ukraine's drone-battered river force, and I reported on this yesterday that Romania are helping to deliver some of these. We don't know how many. We don't know exactly what they are as well. So I presume this is David Axe. Yeah, David Axe in Forbes writing, it's unclear how many boats the Finns are donating and which type, but it's obvious that what the Ukrainians might do with the craft. Reinforce their supply lines across the Dnipro River into the left bank settlement of Krinky. I don't know if they use things this large, but they might do because maybe these are more resistant to drones. Where Ukrainian Marines since October have been holding on to a narrow bridgehead. The Finnish Navy has lost a lot of armoured boats, a dozen 32-ton Jehus, 38 14-ton Germos, plus another 17 under construction and around 20 10-ton Uskos. The boats transport and resupply troops across Finland's long coastline. The Uskos are the clearest candidates for the wartime giveaway. The decades-old boats are leaving Finnish service as newer Jehus and Jurmos arrive. But the Uskos are also the least useful to Ukraine. While they have a Kevlar liner to help stop small arms fire, the armour only extends along the sides of the boats, unlike the Jehus and Jurmos with their enclosed passenger compartments. The older Uskos have open tops, making them vulnerable to attacks by small explosive-laden drones. Drones might pose the greatest danger to Ukrainians' riverine flotilla, which transports Marines across the Dnipro into Krinky and also alongside cargo drones resupplies the Krinky garrison. In 6 months of bitter fighting, Russian drones have struck dozens of Ukrainian boats and killed many of their crew and passengers. The radio jammers the Ukrainians have set up along the right bank of the Dnipro are the best defense against these drones, but armor protection would help too. It's for no reason that Ukraine has been so keen to get from its foreign allies whatever armored boats the allies can spare. Sweden's recent $680 million aid package for Ukraine included a whopping 30 riverine boats, including 10 armoured CB-90s. A squadron of 10 CB-90s could land a company of 200 Marines with a degree of survivability for both the craft and embarked troops, according to retired Navy officer Pete Pagano, writing in Proceedings, a professional journal of the US fleet. A Jehu or Germo is analogous to the CB-90, and open-top Usko isn't. It's not that ex-Finnish Uskos wouldn't be welcome in the Ukrainian riverine force, is that they don't represent a major improvement over the rigid hull inflatable boats that Ukraine is currently riding and which are getting hit hard on the short but dangerous trip to Krinky. And another 2 boats were listed on Andrew Perpetua's list today. Okay, so interesting stuff. Joseph Borrell wants to use 90% of Russian asset profits to buy arms for Ukraine. So this is where Russian assets have been frozen. They then still make profits. So you skim the profits off the top and give them to Ukraine rather than confiscate the assets themselves. Joseph Borrell, the EU's top diplomat, said he would propose to use 90% of the revenue generated by frozen Russian assets to purchase weapons for Ukraine via the European Peace Facility, the EPF fund, and I guess 10% remaining 10% would be allocated on the EU's budget to boost Ukraine's defence industry, Borrell told reporters in Brussels. The official said he would submit the proposal to member states on March the 20th ahead of the summit starting the next day. That sounds really good news to me. Canada wants to buy Ukrainian-made drones, according to Bill Blair. So this is really interesting and not at all surprising, as Ukraine is generating expertise in drone design, production and use. People are going to be drawing on Ukraine for that expertise. And already this is starting to happen. Canada and allies should learn from the experience of using drones in Ukraine during the 2 years of the big war, he said. Also, such cooperation can be a good investment in the Ukrainian production of drones. And this is where you go back to then Joseph Borrell saying 10% will be allocated of the EU's budget of skimming off the profits to invest in Ukraine's defense industry. And again, there's probably going to be return on investment. That's not just like free money. That's money that the Europeans will get something out of. Like, right, we'll give you this money to invest, but we want some rights over the technology that you design and produce so that we can produce some of that ourselves in Europe. I'm sure there's going to be deals like that going on. No such thing as a free lunch, right? Defense Ministry says that Ukraine plans to open 27 new recruitment centres in the first half of 2024. The advisor has announced on March 19th that 27 recruitment centres of a new type are planned to open in large cities and regional centres in the first half of 2024. In cooperation with Ukraine's armed forces and local authorities, Ukraine's Defense Ministry opened 2 such centres in Lviv and Zaporizhia, both reportedly independent of enlistment offices. Ben Wallace has stated, so he's a former defence secretary that stood down probably because his area is being redistricted and he would have to become an MP in a different area. I think if I remember correctly, and that's probably partly why he stood down as defence secretary, so he didn't have to run in the next election. Because he was doing a good job and people respected him quite a lot as a former military man in a position as Secretary of Defence. Now, certainly doing a good job with regard to Ukraine. I can't talk to his other stuff. I know some people in the military are still critical of the underfunding for British defence, which is still an ongoing issue. Anyway, Grant Shapps has taken over. But he has come out, Ben Wallace, and said that the possibility of British troops participating in the war cannot be ruled out, as reported by the Daily Mail. Furthermore, he advocated for establishing a minimum level of defence spending at 3% of GDP. So there's a lot of people now saying, right, 2% is your minimum spending, 2% of GDP should be the minimum that NATO members spend on defence. In peacetime, we're now effectively in wartime or some kind of proxy war, and therefore 3% should be what we're aiming for. And the UK is presently falling short of that, as are many other nations. US at around 3% and Poland at around 4%. But yeah, that is really good that he's come out and said that we shouldn't rule out troops in Ukraine. Although he's not in an official capacity in saying that, I think that we need to start doing what France is doing, which is talking in terms of strategic ambiguity. And then just to remind you again, this is happening quite a lot, but there's talk about these fighters for Russia that are being picked up from a number of different countries here and continents, even Africa, India, Nepal, Cuba, and other such places. Glasnost says, this is part of Putin's propaganda machine. Naive foreign nationals from these places are encouraged to post these videos during training in the Russian army. Life seems good and easy, but once they're sent to Ukraine, they're treated like dogs. Quote, that's a quote from, I think, is it The Guardian article that came out about this, and seen as subhuman cannon fodder. So yeah, it all might look good there and you can pose nicely, but once you are fighting on the front lines and apparently being hit by your commanders for not doing X, Y, and Z and treated really terribly, then it's all not good. Anyway, that's enough for me for the time being. I've got to shoot off for my appointment. Please take care of yourselves, like, share, and hit the bell, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I'll speak to you soon. Toodle pips.